honor of time, we are going to get started so that we have a lot to cover. So we want to make sure we get through all of it. I recognize a couple of your faces, so it's nice to see you all coming in person. If you didn't see it already, we have pizza for you at the end. So if you hang out, there is food. And so before we get started, I did want our new pre-prof director to introduce herself. Some of you may have seen her in some of the sessions, but I will let you.
Sure, I'll go in front of the camera.
Okay.
Hi, everyone here and online. My name is Davina Kowal, and I'm the new director of the Office of Pre-Professional Programming and Advising. This is day 11 for me. So everyone's been really welcoming, and I've really been enjoying getting to know the community here. Just a little bit about my background. I was a pre-health advising dean at Columbia University prior to this. And I also have a background in admissions, student programming, recruiting, retention, all of those lovely areas of student affairs. So I'm really excited to have moved down here to Baltimore and to be working with you all. So thank you for attending.
Awesome. Okay, and then as you saw in our advertisement, we have done this as a collaborative event between the Writing Center, and we have Ms. Deidre Vineyard here with us. And then we also are collaborating with the Design Center, LDL. And so they will each be speaking to services in which you can take advantage of us in this process. So we'll just get started here. Let's see. Doesn't want to advance. Okay, so in the registration email, you all hopefully received the notification to watch the personal statement video. Yes. Okay. Awesome. I love that nod of the head. So basically we wanted to almost do it more like flip classroom method, look at some stuff in advance so you can come and ask some very specific questions, and then get some feedback from us and engage with us a little bit, right? So just as a quick recap, in case you forgot or we don't want to leave you out of it. The personal statement video is a pretty comprehensive approach to how you can tackle your personal statement process. So personal statements, obviously, in the bigger picture of things, are used to communicate goals, motivations, and your story, as well as how all that comes together to communicate your why. And you'll hear us say why medicine a lot, but we mean why dentistry, why osteopathic medicine, whatever the case may be, right? And so it is also an opportunity for you to serve, an opportunity for you to persuade your reader, right? So at the end of the day, your application is the document that walks in the room before you. Your primary application has your experiences and your personal statement. So the hope is that you can utilize these sections to help show your robust experiences and your intentions, right? You want to persuade the reader that you are ready for rigor that is identified for the identified health profession. You also want to persuade them that you are committed to the time that it's going to take to accomplish this. And you can often show that through the amount of time that you have already given towards these things. You want to also show that you have developed professional skills that are advantageous for the field. Also understanding what you're getting into, right? That's that whole exploration, shadowing, seeing the field. And also have you thought about how you see yourself in the field? So casting that vision mission, right? So the personal statement, sounds like a lot of things have to be done in this piece, but taken together, your personal statement will kind of encapsulate it, whereas your experiences will serve as evidence for how you've done these things. And so in the video, I just kind of highlighted these because I think these are great things that if you were listening to the video and you took time to do, you would actually have a nice, I guess, starting point to this session and maybe can have some specific questions to ask. But there's the personality profile, which is really thinking about the characteristics and qualities that you hope to convey, right? And because the personal statement has 5,300 characters for MD, right? And I believe DO has matched it, and other writings are about the same. You don't have that much space, right? And all of you are over 18 at this point in the room, right? That's a lot of life, right? To fit in 5,300 characters, right? A lot of experiences. So you want to be able to look at your personality profile and see if you could pick 3 to 6 qualities, talents, characteristics that might encompass your strongest areas or your strengths, right? Then you go to that area of connecting with your experiences. So using your experiences to contextualize your traits, your characteristics, and qualities. It's not enough to say, I'm smart, right? You hope that you can show that one through your metrics, but also maybe you've engaged specific ways in your research. You've had opportunities to publish, but you need to use words to convey that and not expect that simply saying you did research can show it, right? So other tips that you want to keep in mind when you're approaching all of your writing, not just your personal statement, is all your experiences don't need to be medically exclusive, right? Don't have to have medical experiences exclusively. Think about those hobbies, those artistic endeavors. Where have you been spending your time, right? Particularly for schools like dentistry, they are going to look for manual dexterity. That is often found in extracurriculars and hobbies and not so much in the classroom, right? Though it can be. So think about how your experiences have shaped you and have developed you. Don't get into the deep and the weeds of topics, right? So a lot of times you guys get really passionate, excited about your research and things, which is awesome. And for like your descriptions for your research, you can kind of get into a little bit of the nuances. But in your personal statement, it is about like big pictures. How does this all tie in? So try to reduce over specificity about specific experiences so that you can build a bigger picture. Don't show, don't just tell, right? So you don't want to just make your personal statement another like resume-esque type of situation where you're just giving this running down. I like to use the example of like listening to a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old tell a story and they go, and then, right? And then the question becomes, is like, okay, where does that all end? So you want your personal statement to build this out of this narrative, right? Depth over breadth, which sounds a little bit constrictive, but you want to make sure your readers see the depth of the things that you've done and not just the vastness. So it kind of bleeds into the like, don't just tell us, show us. Avoid giving a lot of space to academic and personal challenges. I do think a personal statement is a great place to contextualize, but you also have the impactful experience portion of your application where you can give context to maybe certain events or circumstances that have impacted your academic progress or something like that. Your personal statement is probably best used highlighting your strengths and your why, and not too much space given to why you were challenged, unless it's directly connected to your why medicine, like how you want to serve others because of particular identities or circumstances. And then focus on yourself. When telling stories about your experiences shadowing physicians, you don't want to like glorify the physician. You want to tell us, what was it about shadowing that physician that challenged you or inspired you, right? So you want to make sure personal statement is about you and not like a support letter for the people who have impacted you, okay? So really quickly, becoming a distinct applicant. If you've taken 201, you've seen this. Again, you are a culmination of your experiences, not just one area, right? So all of these things will make you be unique, not in a unicorn sense, but in the sense that you are distinctive. I like to say the only time I've seen a huge overlap in a profile was with identical twins who I advised. And that's because their history literally was the same, right? However, how they internalized and their why was nuanced, right? So if identical twins can have a nuanced difference, I'm pretty sure the rest of you can, right? All right. So writing distinct personal statement, it takes the same approach, right? You have personal experience, collegiate, personal identities, values, beliefs, impactful experiences, academic curiosities. All of these components to varying degrees can be in your personal statement and should, right? The question about how much of what section really depends on what is most pertinent to your why. So some people's academic curiosities might lead their personal statement a little bit more than another person. So know that there's not a special formula or something magic about how much you need to have. Everybody's going to have, their spaces will be a little bit different depending on what's planned. And so just as a recap, you want to review your experiences, you want to reflect on the value add to your portfolio, you want to connect your professional competencies. If you've taken my intercession class, done the experience mapping that we had in January, you've had advising with us, we've talked about this, assessing for themes, and then leaning on your experiences as support for your why medicine. And all of these components to varying degrees can help inform how you approach your personal statement. Okay, so that's just a recap of the video and other things that we've said and done with you all. So the question becomes is, where are you in the process, right? And that's where we're going to kick it off, where we know everybody's at different spots in this personal statement writing, and it feels maybe a little daunting and scary, but hopefully we can aid you no matter where you are in the process. So.
Great. Hi all, I'm Kira Wilson. I am the senior life insurance educator. I play heavily in the public health range, but also I'm hanging with y'all the biology. So most of our pre-health, pre-med folks. Yeah. Later on in this presentation, Zuri has offered a really nice visual. And anyone a visual learner? Okay, all right, team visual learner in the house. Not everybody learns that way. I certainly do. Some people can just read it and synthesize it. And I'm like, thank God you're on my team because I cannot do that alone. So collaboration is a huge part. Life design, we're here in the Imagine Center. Life design covers most of our undergraduate and some of our graduate AAP support for career support and planning. You guys already have a huge support in pre-professional and moving you forward to specifically for this particular work for your medical applications and med school, but also want to make sure that you have access to the life design kind of process and really thinking about what not only about this, like what's the with what is the option? What is the option if we're going to do work here in med school? Or maybe something happens and we need to pivot, right? And so we're thinking about how do we utilize all of our skills, our talents, and our interests in the work that is most meaningful for us. This kind of work, life design, is a little bit of a shift of maybe some traditional career planning. And I will tell you, every alumni I have ever spoken to, or most people say, what is it that you do? And we explain it and they go, gosh, I wish I had that. And the fact is we all do this anyways. We might as well name it and use it. So real quick, life design covers a couple of core frameworks. One is to get curious, to be constantly curious. And as folks who are looking at the medical field, I am anticipating you to be very curious about a number of things. It might be in your niche interest. It might be something that is impacting, but getting and staying curious is one of those frameworks that helps us really open up and really be scoping kind of different pieces. Imagine possible lives. Zuri talked a little bit about this real briefly, like how do I see myself? Where do I see myself in this field? And if that's a pivot, or if I went from, I think I totally want to do, be a brain doctor to dentistry, how did we get there, right? So thinking about those possible lives and where we're going to take ourselves, we might go from doctor to poet. I don't know, right? And then thinking about experiencing more, right? Like what are all those different things? And that's something we're tapping into today. What are those range of experiences that we're looking at? What are some things that maybe I have an expertise in because of my experience? And the last piece, which is something that we really want to help you with frequently, personal statement is going to be one element of this, but crafting your story. And one of the things I'll share is that if you are not telling your story, somebody else is telling it for you. So my goal for all of you is to be the master of your own story, right? I want you to be able to share the things that you care about, the stuff that you want to push forward. I want you to be able to do that, whether it's through your personal statement, through LinkedIn, through your professional organizations, but I want you to be able to craft, articulate, and share your own story. Okay. So big part of today is going to be the brainstorming and the kind of ideation and iteration for today. And a big piece of what we try to do in our life design practices is really create a series of habits. Has anybody ever created a habit here at Hopkins? Did you do something different from day one? No, no one did that. Okay, maybe. Has anybody had a habit broken at Hopkins? You were like, I'm definitely gonna go running every day, and I did it. Okay. So building habits is a really intentional practice. And so what we are oftentimes trying to do in our brainstorming process, in our building and our crafting, is to try to enact these things. As a visual learner, I literally need these up against my like computer so I don't forget. If I don't see it, I won't remember. So we're looking at compassion. Where does compassion come from? Where are we utilizing this? Especially as we are moving through our academic sphere and into a space in the medical field. Where do we articulate compassion for ourselves, and where do we articulate compassion for our work in others? That is a really great place to start when we're thinking about what kind of story do I want to tell, or where do I find, that element of compassion in my work. Co-creation. I did just say something about collaborating here. What ways do we ask for and respond to help? So one of those stories might be a time that I actually realized I was maybe needing way more help than I thought. And finding a way to do that, or finding the team that I really needed to work with me. Visual learners, with those who can synthesize all words, welcome to the co-creation, right? And then what intersection do you find yourself at when you are looking for co-creators? Is that a cross-section between an interest in an academic research project, etc.? Where do you find yourself doing it? Where do you find that practice? Another big habit is the habit towards action, right? So this has kind of got a little bit of a 50-50 twist. Like, we want you to be moving and trying new things. I also want you to be reflecting about the actions that you've taken, right? Zuri shared a little bit about that cycle within our personal statement practice, but I'm asking you to do this every day. Does everybody take an action every day? Woo, sometimes we get up, we go to class. Woo, it's an action, right? But how do we move ourselves? How can you break larger tasks into small accomplishments forward? Like, I am down at least like 16 ounces of water and I need help. I am gonna drink some water today. And that's gonna be my accomplishment and task today. Ambiguity. Who in this room is super ready to sit in the middle of discomfort and not have an answer? No one's excited for that moment? We're like, okay, we got a couple. Like, let me share that in the medical field, there are gonna be a lot of moments where you're gonna go, I don't have an answer for that right now. And we have to be okay with sitting there for a minute and letting like new information come up, right? Come back to curiosity. So how do we practice being okay with ambiguity? I don't have the answer right now. And my anxiety, my stress, like, you want to push this, right? Maybe it's just recognizing. So where do you sit with discomfort and allow new ideas to emerge? How do we do this? That's going to be a personal practice. This also might be a challenge you talk about in your personal statement. How do I build on it? How do I practice? How do I practice failure? Y'all, I failed a couple times this week and I had to come back to, how do I ask for help? Right? So what is something that didn't work the first time and you tried again? So when you're thinking about your personal statement, when you're brainstorming around this, what's a practice that you might say, hey, I actually didn't finish the project, or I didn't do it, but I learned something different. What's that challenge? And how do we do that often and forward, right? And the last piece we talk about is that mindfulness piece, that habit of building mindfulness. This, I think, is one of the most difficult pieces, because it means you have to kind of step outside yourself, look at yourself and go, okay, I see what I'm doing. And then take a minute to recenter, right? So when do you notice something different about how you approach your work or issue for yourself? How do I see myself and then slow down? These are the habits that we utilize here through life design. And these habits, the way you practice these, can be part of your brainstorming and really help you articulate some of the pieces, some of the stories for your personal statement. Mindfulness is really the hardest one, I will say. I don't do it all the time, but I had a moment where I was like, okay, I have to breathe today. Anything you want to add on the back?
No, so like mindfulness is meant to like balance that bias to action, where are we called to pause and think about our experiences and be able to share our stories coherently, right? That's a big part of what you're doing as you write your personal statements. You're looking back on what you've done over the past 4 years and you're making meaning from it. That's an ongoing, that's how learning happens, and that's how you kind of make clear decisions moving forward. So all of these couples here did a great job of like showing us how these are all connected to life design and your personal statements, but keep in mind that writing your actual personal statement is a practice of mindfulness.
Awesome. This is Ashley Shuntz. She is your senior director or senior assistant director for brain sciences and
Like brain and environment.
there we go, environmental sciences. So what does this all have to do with career, right? What does it all have to do with being in the workspace? Almost every one of these practices is also a skill that you'll have to work with when you are working. So we want to practice those now. And sometimes you're like, hey, like me, I'm like, I'm frozen, I can't do the action. And then then I'm like, okay, I know that I'm stuck here. And so we need to practice those. And actually, this is an amazing environment to do it in. So one of those things is to remember that these practices, these habits are also skills that we develop in the kind of career and workspace. I'm going to pop us over real quickly. So life design supports a whole range of those career exploration. For this moment, the most valuable information may be that life design is almost entirely, not exclusively, but almost entirely drop-in hours. So you can always come in from 1 to 5, hard to read here, and meet with any life design educator. We're here to be able to explore different processes. One of the things that we're here in the beginning for is to kind of think through some of those bigger elements or those experiences and interests that you want to write about, and that we can review and offer feedback around personal statement and other career documents. So personal statement is what we're doing today, but you may find that you have a series of questions or an interview or even a resume that you're like, hey, this resume is 5 pages long, and I know my recruiter is only going to read 2. So how do I get it? Right? The other place is to meet with your life design educator that is designed for your major. So anybody hanging out in the public health realm? Hello, people. Hey. Anybody hanging out in the brain sciences?
All right.
Okay, Ashley in the back.
We got some duos.
And if you are in biomolecular sciences, you're looking for a Miley, yes. So each of your educators also has a period of time that's really exclusively for that major. So if you have very, very specific questions, or you could email us. If you're like, hey, I don't know who my life design educator is, I would recommend searching life design in your email, and I will guarantee that they have sent you an email in the last 4 months, and it may or may not be in your other folder. So again, we are here often for a big on the exploring opportunities and sometimes beyond med school. So I want to make sure to highlight that Pre-Professional has been offering a lot of the med focused work. And if that's where you're like, if that is the track you're on, that's what you're looking for, great, continue. If you're like, hey, I'm also interested in like a little bit of this, a little bit of that, we're also happy to talk about that. And again, that statement for review for personal statement and other career mechanics. You'll see a little bit later about where might I get some of the different types of review for that personal statement, because I know that this can be a little bit of a process. And sometimes if you're like me, you want to write it right the first time, and that's honestly not how it goes. So I'm going to pass it off to you with a reminder that It's totally okay to fail in writing it the first time. Sometimes it's just, you have to get all of the information out and then we start to synthesize it. So I think that passes it up.
Great, thank you so much. Hi, I'm Deirdre Bingham, I'm the director of the Writing Center. I will get in front of the camera in a minute, but thank you so much. So you have a bookmark coming your way so that you remember us. How many of you have used the Writing Center at JHU? Okay, yay, okay. What did you bring to the Writing Center? What stage were you at? What did you do?
I had a draft completed, I just waiting to finalize it, so final thing stuff. Looking at the style of the book, it was a lot of driving.
Great, okay, so you actually came in kind of at a final stage and did some edits. How about you?
I had a couple of ideas for like this personal statement for the internship that I got and got.
Great, okay, good. Anybody else? Okay, so, the Writing Center is in, Gilman Hall. That's too bad. Gilman Hall 230. I hope you all come in. We can actually help you at, oh, thank you.
Yeah.
We can help you at any stage of the writing process. So, for those of you who have never been to a writing center, a writing center is a place where you can take a piece of writing. For us, you can come in with, at any stage, you could bring your prompt for the personal statement. You can bring, as you did, a very final draft and say, help me edit this, make sure it's all flowing, right? We help you, so our last presenter talked about not writing it right the first time. We like to say that all writing is really about revision. So you get something down on the page and then you look at it and you rethink that, and our tutors help you do that. So this is some very basic information about us, our times, Sunday through Thursday to 10 p.m. These are our dates. We do have both online appointments, so synchronous, so you could with a camera, our software allows for that's kind of like Zoom, or in person. If you can come in person, of course, I think that's always better. But for those of you who are out of town, you're an alum, we do serve alums and we work with a lot of alums on their personal statements. So I really recommend that you come in and work with us. We are a peer tutoring center, and what that means is that all of our tutors are either undergraduates or graduate students here on the Hopkins campus, so they know what you're going through. A lot of them are headed towards med school themselves, and there's a misconception that all Writing Center tutors are English majors. Not true. This is a very STEM focused school. We have a lot of tutors who are in neuroscience or molecular biology or public health. You name it, we've got a wide range. We have tutors who are in biomedical engineering and civil engineering. So we have a wide range of writing tutors. Everybody writes. So I know that your leaders today are going to start you off with some brainstorming activities, right? So I'm just going to say a quick word about that. Some tips for getting started. And these are kinds of things you can do with a tutor too. So when you're beginning to write something, don't worry about it being possibly a failure. There's no failure in writing. There's just opportunity for revision. So make a mess, plan them out, get those ideas down, okay? Ignore sentence level concerns in your first draft or your zero draft, right? So just focus on getting the ideas out and getting something down that you can work with. Comment or writing in brackets. What I mean by that is don't get stuck on one thing, right? If you're like, oh, I'm not sure what to say here, put something in brackets, come back and add an example here, come back and add whatever you need, or reword this section. It doesn't make sense. And then like the last comment is something I hope that all writers really understand is that we usually don't know really what we're going to say or what we want to say until we get through the process of writing. And so right to understand where there's sort of this misconception that you're going to have this idea and then you're going to think it all through and then you're going to plop it on the page. But that's not the way, but that's not what research tells us that writers really do. As you're writing, you're developing those ideas. So think about those things today as you're working with your leaders on creating that free write and that brainstorm. And do come in to use the writing center. Talking with another human being is really a powerful way to forward your writing because it helps you get outside your own head and think about that audience, right? So you're thinking about what is that rhetorical situation? Who am I writing for? What's my purpose? What am I trying to convince my reader of? And having someone to talk about that with and what's being communicated and what's not being communicated is incredibly helpful. All right. Would you like anything else?
Yeah, I would say I love the comment of about putting things in brackets. I am definitely a proponent of I'll put in there like put something brilliant here about.
Yes.
So sometimes because you can't find the words, it's good to at least remind yourself what you were trying to accomplish in that section. If you don't feel like you have examples or it's coming together. And then I will also say that definitely for those that maybe are a little, I think with my fingers, so being able to type things out is great, but some people are just different in terms of how they process. So I encourage you to do voice notes, like record yourself talking. Sometimes once you talk it out, you can kind of then orient it to be a better paragraph than if you were sitting there having writer's block, right? So definitely lean on your processing strength to get the process started. And then of course it has to be a written document. So that's where like, it's hard to give help. And I tell students all the time, if you have something, it's easier to give feedback and support. But when there's nothing on the paper, it's almost like I can't make your story up for you, right?
But you can talk that
But
out.
you can talk that out.
Right,
as
and
well.
so I really agree with you about the talking it out and how you can get your ideas out there. So we can help talk you through stuff so you can get something on the page.
So we encourage you to do that.
Thank you so much for your time.
Appreciate it. Okay, so everybody's on, do we have any questions online that came up that we should?
We do. So there have been, I guess they can.
Yeah.
So one of the questions was, about how creative writing, how creative do you have to be of a writer to write this personal statement? And my response to that is that I think that answer is a bit different for each writer. We were kind of talking about this earlier, and this shouldn't be your, if you are exploring creative writing as something new, this probably shouldn't be the place where you practice that creative writing. However, you can use narrative and declarative statements to really show rather than tell. So for instance, if you really wanted to talk about how compassionate you are, or your empathy for others, instead of saying something like, I'm very empathetic to other people's needs, you can talk about a time where you may have been in a nursing home facility where you were volunteering and you really took stock that this person really liked this one type of music. And so when you came in to meet with them, you were mindful to make sure that you played music from that genre, right? So that shows that you're empathetic, that you're compassionate, that you're thinking about others without you having to explicitly say that. And you also don't need to use, overly flowery words to be able to communicate that either.
Agreed.
Yeah.
This is not Grey's Anatomy, y'all. Don't walk us into a room and give us a real wild scene and then
Right.
just tell us.
Let's see, the other question here was, does the Health Professions Office or LDL provide any resources to get feedback on personal statement drafts?
That's
And that will be coming up. We'll be talking about the different ways to utilize the offices so that you can get feedback at different points of your writing, as well as get different perspectives. And let's see. One of the other questions was about the difference between your autobiography and your personal statement. And your autobiography will encompass more of your earlier experiences, talk about your childhood, kind of bring us through different points in your life, whereas the personal statement, you might have some components from the autobiography as to how you became inspired to do something, or the thought came to go into medicine. But the personal statement is really more of a focused piece of writing that really, again, shows, allows you to display those competencies through your experiences by exploring what they've meant to you and how you've grown from them. And I think that's it. That brings us up
Okay,
to speed.
awesome. So I'm glad you guys were able to hear those explanations verbally as well.
Okay, so our piece here, before we get into because we want to spend at least the last 15 minutes or so kind of having you go through part of the process, which will not by any means end here. It is only the beginning. And so one of the big aspects that you will hear us talking about for pre-prof is why medicine, why dentistry, right? Again, when you're applying for, I love that we took you through like the greater, like there's a word I'm looking for that means macro level, and then your application to medical school is a very nuanced opportunity to communicate your story within the context of your hope to be in the field, right? So there's a lot of things that you will be able to utilize for cover letters, for other pieces of writing, for professional spaces. However, when you're applying to your desired health profession school, there is this opportunity to give your listener and reader not just a sense of who you are, but how your values, strengths, qualities, characteristics, those things come together and align with your becoming a physician, right? So it is, and I think that's the separation between just the autobiography, right? It's not just about telling us, tell me about yourself, that really dreaded question, right? But it's tell me about yourself within the context of your goal to be a physician, right? What has brought you here? So how do your values align with your interest in becoming a physician, right? What are things you are good at or enjoy that you believe will help you be an effective physician? How? So these are great for like free writing. Like if nothing else, just answers these questions, take a couple a day. So I call it productive procrastination. When you're like, I'm not studying, I just can't right now, pull out a couple questions, jot those things, don't worry about the nuance of your writing, just get it out. Because I guarantee you the amount of writing you will do in this process, you will probably use this information somewhere because you have your experiences, your personal statement, and then secondaries, which is a whole nother like writing beast in itself, right? So it will be valuable material for you at some point. Then also think about when you're trying to answer the question of why, answer a broader question of why medicine and not a specialty, right? So it's great to say that you have an orientation towards a particular field. That's great. Maybe you have research to back up that you're interested in cancer research or oncology and things like that. But advocating for yourself to be an oncologist before you get in med school may not be the best use of your personal statement, right? It's to get you there. And there's going to be so many steps in medical school that are going to lead you to those nuances. So make sure you are asking yourself, how have my experience shaped my perspective about healthcare, about medicine, and what it means to be a physician, right? And then the last one is just like, make sure you're clear about your hopeful outcome, right? So we know that like not the nonprofits we volunteer for or organizations, they have vision and mission statements. So should you, right? So if you think of yourself as this entity that you are using your application to essentially set a platform for, the hope is that you can communicate how you will accomplish, not just based out of thin air, but based off of the experiences that you've had, clinical, community service, extracurriculars, research, etc. right? So how have you demonstrated aspects of this already? If you started your HPA, does a lot of this look familiar? Right? Okay, so the whole point of the HPA is to get you exercising that muscle of writing about yourself. And then you can take elements, because remember, we're not taking the HPA and sending it to medical schools. That's our internal process to understand who you are. You can take your material and revise and tweak and make it fit other sections. It's for you, right? So let it be serve as an opportunity to keep writing about yourself. Kayla, you want to do this one?
Hi. Okay, so upcoming, not this month, starting next month, is when pre-prof is going to start interviewing person. There are two ways to do this. You can make an appointment. Not right now, because there's not gonna be anything on the starting maybe towards the end of March, those will be available, or you can do it online, which would be a non-one-on-one appointment with an advisor review. So you would submit the form, upload your personal statement draft, and then we will give you feedback via email.
Those are options. And it's or, y'all, it's or. We wish we could give both.
And we keep track.
That way we keep track.
We are small but mighty. So yeah, April 1st ends May 31st. That's very purposeful because that is when your AMPAS, CONUS, CMDSAS should be going out. AMPAS is allowed to go out around that time. That's when they give you the okay to start the submit button. So yes, start now, do all your reviews, come to us when it's almost completed. Which should be one of your last, which is very nice slide on that.
Yes.
And then,
Okay. Davina, do you want to keep answering that or come up? You want me to read?
Actually, I think I
Oh,
answered
okay.
the last one.
Okay.
Okay. All right here, so the way that the review will work for for your personal statements is that we really encourage you, and we're going to share a cute little graphic later, to have your first drafts or your initial drafts that you're going through reviewed by the Writing Center to really utilize the resource. And when you come to us, you should be near your final draft. And we'll be able to provide you with the perspective of, from really like the health perspective of what we feel like, answering the question of why and helping you to be able to really communicate that and make sure that when people are reading your personal statement, they are getting the answers that you want them to have, right? So when working with you, we'll be able to provide you with that feedback. So for the one-on-one appointment personal statement reviews, what you'll need to do is submit a copy. One personal statement. I have worked with many students through this, and I know that you'll have multiple drafts, but hopefully by this point, you will have decided which story you'd like to tell or how you would like to tell it and be at that point. So you'll only submit one personal statement to the advisor who you made an appointment with via Handshake. So in Handshake, you'll see that there will that you can schedule the advising session, and then you can put in the notes personal statement, and then you will send it to the person that you make the appointment with, which will be either Zori or myself in the month of April. So you will email this as a Word document. So please make sure that you're emailing the right document. If you're using any Apple products and they have pages, it's really difficult for us to be able to open it. And a lot of times we can't. So please make sure that you're using the Word document and no later than 2 business days prior to your appointment. So we have an example here so that you know how to calculate the business days. So if you have an appointment on Monday, that means submitting by Thursday at 5 p.m. And so on and so forth. So your personal statement, during that time, we will use that entire advising session to discuss and get feedback on that personal statement. For an online appointment, not an appointment, for an online review, you should submit your personal statement draft through the personal statement online form that will be found under the personal statement module on the entry year 2025 website page. So you all should, if you started your HPA, and if you haven't, you should be starting it. You will be able to find that link under that module for your personal statement. And you'll also be able to find it on the SurveyMonkey Apply, the SMA info page. You want to save your document as your last name, first name, and JET ID. This information will also be available on there. So you'll be able to see the format that you should save it. And you want to allow 5 to 7 business days for advisors to be able to review the draft that you sent. And just to reiterate, given the large volume of applicants, we would love to be able to read more than one of your drafts, but unfortunately, in order to be equitable, we are only able to give feedback in one of these methods and one time. So that's why we really encourage you to use us as one of your next to last resources for getting feedback on your personal statement. And like I said, we'll go through a little bit of kind of a timeline of how to use each resource so that you can make sure that you're maximizing that.
All right, any questions about that? And we will definitely send emails through SMA. You've been getting emails through SMA, right? Okay, awesome. We will also put it on the website, and there's a little info page on the SurveyMonkey Apply section too that will also always have information. Yeah.
What if we have started our HPA, how would we find it?
You can always go into your email, like here, your yeah, spam, other, and search EY25. I guarantee you it's probably in there at least 7 times at this point. Okay, all right. Appreciate y'all. Okay, let's see. Oh, this was the cute image
Yeah.
in which we were describing. So the question is when do we use what service? So obviously you saw some of the hours and the availability. In the summer, we're hoping no one is doing personal statements at that time, obviously, right? So this is more of a now to early June. Well, for us, feedback to early June. However, if you are still working, I always say prioritize quality, right? So if you are still working on it and the Writing Center is still made available, as you can see, Writing Center drafts, working on drafts with the Writing Center spans a little bit further than our feedback timeline. I think in terms of the personal statement process, the brainstorming is best like now with LDL, right? So within the next 2 months before finals kick up and you all disappear, right? I would definitely encourage you to do some drop-in hours. Start early because pre-profs deadline will be a hard stop of May 31 because we legit have to shift brains and then start to write too. So what we expect of you, we also have to do, right? So we encourage you just to keep this in mind about it. Yes.
I fully expect to see all of you next week, okay?
Thumbs up, right? Awesome. Okay, so in the last 15 minutes or so before, because I know you guys are looking for the food, right? It's coming. We promise we didn't lie. It wasn't just to get you here. So in this time, we're going to kind of get started. Yes. Yes, you did not miss it. Okay, so right now we have it blocked because you guys are Provence. Okay. All right, so after we get back to our office in the morning, right, and we can figure this out, we will open it. We did not want to have it open without everyone getting the instructions. So we want to post the personal statement video by the end of the week, I should say Friday, before we leave the office. Those appointments will be open and available, okay? So we get off at 4:30, all right? So you can mark your calendar. All right, so we will open it by that point so that you have access to that, as well as the form situation if you want to. Obviously, we're actually not going to open the form for those that are getting online feedback. We'll have the form likely. I don't know if I can control it that way in the. Ignore what I said. It's going to be all accessible by Friday. Okay, so you'll see it. But again, we will not start providing feedback until April 1. So if you submit it a little early, just know that 5 and 7 business days doesn't start counting until April 1. Okay, awesome. Any other questions? That was a good question. All right. Okay, so we're gonna brainstorm. So we told you that we don't want you to walk here saying, okay, this is great information, but like, what now, right? So when we did the Venn diagram kind of thing, we showed you different things, different sections, like academic curiosities, experiences. What we want you to do right now, I'm gonna make you do it kind of speedy, right? Because I think sometimes our best ideas, at least generating and brainstorming, we shouldn't ruminate on, we should just go to what comes to our mind. So I want you to kind of you don't have to do full sentences. If full sentences makes you happy, that's fine. But this can be bullets or things to remind you of events or circumstances. But go ahead and kind of follow these prompts and do some bullets, do some quick thinking about your academic curiosities. And then I'll stop talking so you can concentrate. I'm gonna do a 1-minute timer. Those of you online, you should also do it. Hopefully you have like a running Word doc that you already got going on or something. About 10 more seconds. Okay. All right. So again, not looking for perfection, just looking for jotting ideas, right? So hopefully you've kind of asked yourself, why did I choose my major? Are there other experiences that I've engaged in that have helped me expand my knowledge, right? Past personal experiences. So, and I'm intentionally saying 1 to 2 specific personal experiences because again, we got 5,300 characters, guys. So we gotta limit it. About 30 more seconds. Okay. We're gonna go to the next circle. Personal identities and impactful experiences. So again, it's not just about the identities and the circumstances and the events that you've had, but how are they connected to how you see yourself within medicine, if they are. Also, let's talk about resilience and growth. About 20 seconds. Okay. Okay. Last, but definitely not, the final area because there are other things, right? Collegiate experiences. What courses or experiences outside of the classroom have significantly influenced you? And then again, we talk about our buckets: research, community service, clinical experiences. What role have they played? You look so perplexed. About 30 more seconds. Okay. So keep free writing, right? Keep brainstorming. These are other prompts and questions. Sorry, this thing is like at the bottom, but you'll have access to the. Oh gosh. Okay. Oh God, I don't want to look at myself. Okay. So basically keep free writing. Definitely use this as an exercise to talk about different aspects of your story. And remember Kira's like spectrum of things that I can't remember specifically, but I know there's the ideation and, you know, working through many of the challenges and the blocks, but using mindfulness as a tool to exercise like, okay, how do I actually feel about these questions? I do think that some students, I should say in ideation and creativity, innovation, right? They always tell you don't fall in love with the solution, right? Fall in love with the problem. And I think in the same way as your personal statement, don't think one that there's this ideal perfect. There's probably 5 versions of your personal statement that will get you into medical school fine, I promise you, right? The question is like, which one is the best representation of who you are at this moment? And if anything changes, it will likely revamp and iterate, even though historical things about you may not. So definitely don't fall in love with one aspect of your story and think that it must fit in there, even when it doesn't feel like it's flowing with the curated way that you're focusing your why, because there's probably a secondary question or another area in your application that you can utilize that piece of information or that example. So I know you want to feel like you walk away from a personal statement and you feel like amazing about it. And we want you to feel secure that you've done enough and you've put enough energy, but you don't have to be like, this is the best piece of writing I've ever written in my life. Like, I can guarantee you it needs to be a concise, clear, comfortable narrative that explains why you want to do something. You will probably look back at it 10, 15 years from now and be like, I could have said that better, but it got you there, right? So the whole thing is that make sure it's a work in progress and don't feel like it needs to be perfect. So as we kind of wrap up, the pizza's not here yet. It's on its way. All right, so y'all got me for a little bit. Y'all want pizza? Okay. I say we do have room for questions. So you want to draw connections, answer why, right? So I'm just gonna loop you back. I've talked about this till I was like, I don't turn blue, but you know, you get the point. So you're blue in the face, like your experiences are not enough to just label them. You want to make sure you're using the portion of it to explain how. Your personal statement will often have overlap of experiences that you've written about, but they should not be repetitive, right? So there are elements and overarching themes that will be present in your personal statement. We encourage you to look at, if you do the QR code, you will get the AAMC core competencies document that helps define what these things are and how admission teams are using your application and searching for them. So look at it, see the definition, and then I think Ms. Davina gave a great example of like how you actively show empathy instead of just saying you have empathy, right? So utilizing narratives and stories to show the competencies. And then if you attended the experience mapping, we did a whole session on just building out those thematic aspects, those themes, which are characters, qualities, traits, skill sets, navigating through this and connecting experiences. Again, your personal statement is just another opportunity to bring this all together, okay? And if you need a formula, because I know y'all like formulas, right? And somewhere in your personal statement, there you are answering this question. I want to or look to be a physician who does what for whom because, right? And the other aspects, the narratives you choose, the experiences you choose to be as evidence are all going to help exemplify how you've already demonstrated to some degree something that you claim you will be in the future, right? So the best predictor of future behavior for med schools is past behavior. So if I say, I am going to be a leader who helps train future generations of physicians, right? Maybe they might look for have I tutored people? Have I been ever in a position where I've helped my peers learn or navigate, right? That's a great example, which might be indicative of you being that in the space in the future. So this is just a nice formula. You don't have to have a sentence like this in your personal statement, but sometimes it helps to have this written out. So then you can say, do I have evidence for this? What do I have evidence? What at least shows these things? And so again, just reiterating, use your resources, life design hours, make an appointment with the Writing Center and submit your close to final draft to pre-prof. We're here for you. We want to help you. I know in the past years with online feedback, there was sometimes I did do voice notes. So some people might get that, some people may not. It's not that one person didn't deserve a voice note. It's just sometimes it's easier for us to also speak to you in a voice note so that you understand what we're giving back. And then some, don't be scared if you're like, there's barely any feedback. It's probably fine, right? So we also want you to understand, like, we're not going to just skim it over and not give honest feedback, but sometimes it is really fine, okay? And then just as an iteration, make sure your HPA, you can watch this video actually on SMA. I think I sent it out last week, which is utilizing the HPA, where I draw a lot of the connections between places in your personal statement that you can, or information from the HPA that is definitely directly related to personal statement content. And so, you know, we are here for you in many ways. We have HPA drop-in hours, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th week of March at these times. We will send this through email as well. And please don't have us sitting there just looking at ourselves. You know how many times we have drop-ins and nobody comes, right? So this is for applicants only, right? And so we will make the link to this, or the Zoom link, accessible through, I will give you a version of this flyer with a Zoom link. I didn't put it up here because
It might be on.
it's already
private page.
it's already on the private page. Awesome. So it's already there. I will absolutely make sure it's emailed at the beginning of each week to remind you that these are the hours for the beginning of the week. So there's an opportunity to connect with us. Okay, and then questions, concerns, comments? We didn't really do breakout rooms or anything, but I know people were asking questions. Okay. Yes.
You might add that, you can come to the Writing Center more than once. I know that the time is very limited at your office. But you can come, twice a week if, and you can bring the same thing as many times as you want.
Awesome. See, somebody can do more than once a week. I mean, once a time cycle.
And HPA drop-ins can be for anything. You can read your essays, you know, 1 or 2, obviously, it can be like normal drop-ins, like if we have a line, maybe 10 minutes.
It's not open?
Oh.
Oh, no,
Oh,
it's
it is
open.
Just kidding.
Just kidding.
So everyone is gonna hear all the feedback.
Yeah, so if you're comfortable with something like that, please bring it because sometimes it's helpful. However, we will also answer things generally. If you happen to be the only one in the room, you're the lucky one. So, and that has happened in the past where you do get the time, but just know that people can come in and out of those drop-in hours for any types of questions. Okay? We're here, we're sticking around. Obviously, the food is here, so we don't mind talking to you individually if you have questions or concerns. Thank you for coming. Thank you, online participants. Hopefully this was helpful. Definitely reach out to us if you have any questions.
Yeah.